with the season finale of Hawkeye, and what a finale it was. You can check out my reaction up here after this video. It is time to rank all 6 episodes of Hawkeye. Let me know your ranking in the comments down below. And before I get to my number 6, I want to start saying that I actually really loved this show, and so I loved every single episode, and I don't think there was a bad episode. And at number 6 is episode 3, Echoes, and this actually opens up with Maya, our villain, and they give us like the background and the backstory and her origin story. And I really like when they do this with the villains, where they actually give us information about them, and so we can kind of like see their point of view. And this one also has the awesome car chase that you see in all the trailers, and yes, it was just as awesome because of like the point of view where it feels like you're in the car and you see Kate having fun with all of Hawkeye's trick arrows. There's also this really touching moment when Clint is on the phone to his son Nate, but he can't hear him because he doesn't have his hearing aid, and so Kate has to transcribe everything, and he's like, it's okay if you can't make it home for Christmas. Yes, I did cry at that point. And then this episode ends with Jack holding a sword to Clint's neck, but because of where episode 4 starts, where it doesn't really mean anything, kind of felt a little underwhelming. And this episode, though it was good, it had a lot of good moments, it didn't really feel like it pushed the story forward that much, and so that's why it's last. At number 5 is episode 1, Never Meet Your Heroes, and this was a really promising start to this season. This is probably one of the best like opening episodes because it opens up with a young Kate Bishop, and we see her like why she's in love with Hawkeye, why she really looks up to him. And this episode pretty much just introduced us to the character of Kate Bishop, and she is such a lovable character, and she's played by Hailee Steinfeld, and that was absolutely perfect casting. I love her from the beginning of this episode and throughout the whole show. And of course we have Hawkeye with his family, and you just kind of see like where he is at this point, post Endgame, post everything. And this episode really doesn't like cut back on the action because you have a really long fight scene where Kate Bishop takes the Ronin suit and she wears it, and then it ends with Hawkeye unmasking her and like, hang on, you're just a kid. And the episode ends. And so this was just a great opening episode, learning more about Kate Bishop, or learning about her for the first time, seeing where Hawkeye's at right now. You kind of see he's struggling a bit with the PTSD from losing Nat, and I really like how we get a mention of her throughout this whole show and also in this episode. And of course it also introduces us to the first time to Lucky the pizza dog. What a great dog. At number 4 is episode 2, Hide and Seek, and this is such a great episode because it first like introduces us, get us going with the dynamic between Kate and Clint, and they're such a dynamic duo. I love their partnership. I just love them because they're so funny. He's like the grumpy old man and she's just like the lovable, excitable, energetic like teenager. And so this has a lot of like short moments. You got Clint bloody LARPing, that's hilarious. He has to really like sell his death, and that whole scene is just so funny. You have a standoff duel between Kate and Jack because she's trying to like prove that he's a liar, and you just really have that fun dynamic between Kate and Clint in this episode. He teaches her how to like bandage herself properly. It's just a really nice episode. Before I give out my top 3, if you like this video, leave it a like and subscribe for more. I'll have more Marvel content to finish off the year and in 2022. Also comment down below your ranking of all 6 episodes. I want to know how much they are the same or how much they differ. At number 3 is episode 4, Partners Am I Right? And this again was such a fun episode. They honestly just get better and better. This episode really didn't cut back on all of the funny, the fighting, all of the surprises, and of course the sadness. Again, we really have that nice dynamic between Kate and Clint. She shares some of that holiday cheer with him. Like, you get all the Christmas feels in this episode, but then you also kind of like see the struggles of Clint. You see the PTSD. Yes, I cried when you had like the flashback of the beginning of Endgame and when Nat died. And towards the end you have that really big fight where at first it's confusing because both, it seems, Kate and Clint are fighting Maya, but it turns out that Clint was actually fighting Yelena when she reveals herself by taking her mask off. And yes, oh, that was such a big shock, and I absolutely loved this episode because of that, and this is just a really great episode. And then the next 2, they were just both really great, and so it was really hard to rank these 2, which one was the best, and what is the number 1 just slightly gets there. But in at number 2 is episode 5, Ronin. It opens up with Yelena blipping. I mean, we finally got to see it. Yes, we did see it in the WandaVision show with Monica Rambeau, but this like felt so instant. I was really confused at what was happening at first. I thought she was having a nightmare, but no, she did blip. And it's actually really sad because right before she blips, she's saying to her friends how she's gonna have so much fun with Nat, and as soon as she blips back, she's like, I've got to go find Nat. And yes, I cried. And we also get a really great scene between Kate and Yelena, and this is the dynamic I wanted to see between the 2 of them, being like buddies. Yes, they weren't quite buddies in this scene, but it was just so funny, the back and forth between them. Honestly, these 2 characters being played by Hailee Steinfeld and Florence Pugh was absolutely just golden casting. I absolutely love both these actresses, and then just put them both together in Marvel in general, but then also like in the same show so they can interact with one another, and it's just so funny but also kind of sad because she's like Clint killed my sister. And then the sadness doesn't stop there, because next there's a really saddening scene where Clint is talking to Nat and he's just like, you was always the bravest one of us. I'm trying to live my life for you. And yes, I cried at that. Honestly, I just cried every single episode of Hawkeye. And so you really had like the really hilarious side with Yelena talking to Kate, then also a really sad side there. And then there is like a really cool fight between Maya and Clint. And at one point I was kind of rooting for Maya because it just looked really cool. And he showed up in his Ronin suit but unmasked him to show that he is Clint. And of course Maya was like, what? You're a monster. You killed my dad. But he reveals that actually he was hired by her boss. And the episode ends with like a picture of the big boss, and the big baddie is Kingpin. And I really liked how they just revealed him like so quickly just then, and like it was really, everyone thought he was going to be in this, and it is him. And it's the same actor who plays him from the Netflix show Daredevil. And they really waste no time for him in episode 6, the season finale. And so you can probably guess that in my #1 spot is the season finale, which is called So This Is Christmas. And this whole episode really gives you Die Hard vibes. And so is this what Christmas is? And I said this in my reaction and mini review of the episode of the finale, that this is the best season finale we've ever had with one of these MCU Disney Plus shows, because it honestly closes off every single storyline, obviously like leaving them kind of open with some of the characters that we are going to see again in future Marvel projects. And so this episode does a really great job of like answering all the questions you had leading to this point, and then leaving you some open for the future projects. Again, in this episode there are so many more great interactions between Kate and Yelena. It is so bloody funny, them two, and I just need to see them together in anything else in the future. And of course there's so much fighting in this, because you got the big battle that you see in all of the trailers. And so where Kate and Clint are fighting off all the tracksuit mafia people, it's really cool because they've got all their trick arrows. You've also got a fight between Clint and Yelena, as well as a fight between Kate and Kingpin. Honestly, all of it's just so crazy because it's all going on at once. And this episode was just really great because it closes everything. We see what happens with Eleanor. She gets arrested, and there's a really like funny line which is actually quite sad as well, where Eleanor says to Kate, this is what being a hero is, arresting your mother on Christmas Day. Like, oh shit. And you also like have like the aftermath of Kingpin and Maya. She shoots the gun, don't know what happened because it just faded away, it turned the camera away, and so we don't know who is dead, if anyone is dead. Don't think anyone is. And you also have a really touching moment between Clint and Yelena, and I cried so much in this scene. He finally like gets her to come around to the idea, or to the fact that he didn't kill Nat, she sacrificed herself to the world. And there's a really sad moment where Yelena says, I loved her so much, and he said, so did I. And Florence Pugh's acting in this scene, as well as Jeremy Renner's, it was just so touching. It ripped right through me, went straight to my heart, and just this finale was the best thing I've ever seen. It took this show probably from like a 7 to a 10. I just absolutely loved it. It was perfectly balanced between all of the humour that you got throughout the whole show, as well as all of the fighting throughout the whole show, and just, it was perfect. All of the characters in this, I loved them. Every single scene, so worth it. As well as this episode gave us the best ending we could have ever imagined for this show. Clint made it home for Christmas in time. And not just that, because Kate was alone, he invited her and Lucky the pizza dog to spend Christmas with them. And it was just so nice seeing him with his family. Like, I'm so glad he made it home for Christmas. Such a perfect ending to this episode and to this show in general. And of course I have to talk about the post-credits scene. I actually loved it. Yes, it didn't set up anything. Could have been considered a waste of time. Why'd you bother filming this? But it was more just a musical. I just thought it was just so funny. I had a fun time hearing them sing the song, do the dances. I loved it. And that's my ranking of all 6 episodes of Hawkeye. Let me know your ranking down below, or just what was your favourite episode, or what was your absolute worst. That's it for my content on Hawkeye, but after Christmas I'll have a video where I rank all of the 2021 MCU content we got that is the movies and the shows, to determine which was my favourite of the year. But thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. Bye.